أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله بالهدى ودين الحق أرسل أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأنه كان رجال من الإنس يعوذون برجال من الجن فزادوهم رهاقا صدق الله العظيم وصدق على رسول النبي الأمين الشفيع الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين ببركة إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وبارك وسلم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين ومن عرب ومن عجم ثم رضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن علي وعن عثمان ذي القرم يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع القرم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد كما تحب وترضى بأن تصلي عليه. Respected brothers and those who are watching via social media, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praises is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, our khaliq, our malik. An abundance of durood and salawat upon the best of creation, the crown and jewel of creation, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, his noble family, blessed companions and honorable wives. Today's topic was in regards to something I was supposed to speak about last week. Something that is plaguing our society, and there's a lot of misconceptions about this certain topic. It's a scary time in our day and age because there's an uprising of the unknown. And this is mental illness or the possession of jinn. So some people get confused and they think that mental illness is a possession of jinn, or the possession of jinn is mental illness, etc. So I'm going to shed some light, inshallah, from the Quran and the Hadith. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow me to speak the truth and for you all to listen to the truth, inshallah. Mental illness, when we think about this, it is the disease of the mind. That's why they call it mental illness. So disease of the mind is connected to the heart. So in theory, when we look at it, the disease of the mind is also the disease of the qalb, the heart. So why does these things happen in our lives where diseases start to be in our minds or in our heads? We often see now, especially in the young generation, stress, anxiety. You know what we say in the Urdu language, pirshani. And they get so much that it starts to affect their daily life. It affects their life in the sense they don't want to go to school, they don't want to go get a job, they don't want to do these things because it takes over their mind, and the mind is connected to the heart, and then they have no interest to doing something. So when we look from an Islamic standpoint, why is there diseases of the heart? My brothers, it's a very short and simple answer. The disease of the heart comes from your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam mentions that when a man commits one sin, his memory starts to go. One sin. You miss one salah. You eat one haram food. You have a haram relationship. You treat your mother and father disrespectfully. Whatever the act of disobedience is, you start to lose your memory. When you start to lose your memory, you start to forget your connection with Allah. So now imagine when you are not connected with Allah. You're not praying your salah. You're not giving your zakat. You're not doing the things that connect you to the deen. Treating your parents with respect. Treating your neighbor with respect. You're not doing the things that Allah has given you as hukm shari in the deen of Islam. Through the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. The acts in which when we learn Dars Nazami and you go to Asul Fiqh and you understand that the things indeed that the Prophet alayhi salatu salam has taught us are those acts that connect you to Allah. So when you start to sin and you start to move away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happens to your heart? Your heart indeed starts to thicken. The blood starts to thicken. Your heart starts to turn black. And when that happens, you forget and you're not in the state of understanding your connection with Allah. Now what all shaitan needs is an ounce, a slip to get inside, which we call waswas. When that waswas happens, he pounces on that like a lion pounces on his prey. When a lion pounces on his prey, shaitan pounces on the minds and the hearts of those who have shown that they have fallen off of Sirat al-Mustaqim. If you think today, my brothers, that you are more powerful than shaitan, then I'm here to tell you that you couldn't be more wrong. If there is no connection with Allah, there's no rahmah from Allah, there is no barakah in your life, shaitan will now take over. Why? What's his job? Shaitan's job is to take you and many, many others along with him to Jahannam. In the time of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu salam, before insan was created, Allah created the malaika and He created the jinn. The jinn was created by the tip of the fire. Not fire, this is a misconception. The tip of the fire, the fumeless fire, is what jinn was created from. And the malaika are created by nur. Now one will ask you, why did Allah create angels by nur? And why did He create jinn by fire? What does nur do? Light. Light brings guidance in your life, illuminates your life. When you have darkness in your life, you need light to illuminate it. When you have fire, fire can cause harm, fire can cause pain, destruction, but fire can also be used for good. Allah created the malaika from nur to only do good, to be a guiding light for the Anbiya, Rasul and the makhluk of Allah. They're ma'soom. They only tell you to do good. They only are able to do good themselves. But now when you look at jinn, where we call the shayateen, who are made from fire, there's good and there's bad. The bad are the creation of Allah that help shaitan take you off track, my brothers. So when there's anxiety in your life, there's stress in your life, turn back and understand your connection with Allah. If your connection with Allah is not strong, then you see what keeps you busy. You see what keeps you busy in your life. And if Islam weighs less than your life in this dunya, then you understand that you have been now attacked by shaitan. This is what causes mental illness, my brothers. Mental illness, stress, and anxiety, we learn from the Anbiya and Rasul. It is filled in that Quran. When Allah has sent trials and tribulations to the Anbiya and Rasul, is far greater than your trials and tribulations. We look at the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. He was raised without a father. His mother left this dunya when he was 6 years old. His grandfather raised him for 2 years. And then he passed away. And then his uncle, Janab Abu Talib, raised him. And then he passed away. Then his uncles, who are supposed to be his blood, ran him outside of Makkah Mukarramah. He started a new life in Madinatul Munawwarah. He had to rebuild everything. He went to war with his uncles. His children died. His sons didn't see past the age of 6 years old. His uncle, Sayyidush Shuhada, Janab Amir Hamza radiyallahu an, passed away in Uhud. He cried for 1 year. You tell me, we can go further. Janab, when you look at Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, you look at his daughter Sayyidah Fatima, you look at all the trials and tribulations that Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam went through, and you weigh that with your life. These things, if Allah's Habib, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Habib alayhi salatu salam, his greatest creation, went through all of these trials and tribulations. For what? To teach you and me sabr and istiqamah. To trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure the diseases of our hearts. Remember your Lord. How many blessings that Allah has given you, my brothers. When we receive something good from Allah, we don't even thank Him. But when something bad happens in your life, you say, Ya Allah, please, Ya Allah, please. This is hypocrisy. Every time you wake up in the morning, you should do shukr because Allah has given you life. Every day you sit and you eat a meal, you should give shukr because Allah has given you something to fill your stomachs. The Prophet ﷺ used to go months, 30, 60, 90 days without food in his house. You eat once or twice a day, 3 times a day. You give shukr to Allah. You go to work, you're earning halal, rizq. That's from Allah, you should give shukr. Your family, your life, your clothes, your house, your businesses, it's a means of giving shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we only remember Allah in the hard times. Now when we understand this diseases of the heart, you look at stress, anxiety are the 2 main ones. But then you look at lying, cheating, deceitfulness, ghibah. You look at backbiting. You look at dishonoring your brothers. My brothers, I'm here to tell you that once you commit sin, once you commit this lie and this cheating, it starts to formulate a habit. And when you formulate this habit, it gets so much out of your control because shaitan is constantly filling your heads with waswas, and mashqooq starts to fill your heart, and you start to do all of these things that you think that they are normal now. You ever know someone who lies so much, the person doesn't even know if he's telling the truth because you say, no, this guy just lies so much. White lies. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, stay away from even white lies or lying in a joking format because it starts to become a habit. When these habits start to come, my brothers, that's when diseases start to fill our hearts. And you look at so many examples. The person who misses 3 Jummah Salah, his heart starts to turn black. The person who misses 3 Asr Salah, your heart starts to turn black. This is a metaphor that we need to understand, that when we lose that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, diseases fill our hearts, we start to part ways from Allah. When we start to part ways from Allah, then salah becomes repetition. It just becomes formality. Takbir tahrima, you don't know what you're doing, you're reading, nothing. It's formality. You don't feel that in your heart. Often when we see people come to the mosque, they say, I don't feel a connection with Allah. When I pray, I don't feel a connection. This is not a sickness or a disease that has been caused by Allah. It's been caused by you. If we are just Ramadan Muslims or we are just Jummah Muslims, your connection with Allah is weak. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran about counting your blessings, Surah Rahman. If I'm not mistaken, Hafizab, 34 times. فَبِّأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. How many of the favors of your Lord are you going to deny? Now you ask yourself, how many do you count? If you fill your life with negativity, and you keep yourself busy outside of the folds of Islam, then how do you expect